Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this is an exciting video because finally I get to talk about and release here in a video our Diablo 4 Ultimate Build tier list, where all of them are graded and compared and rated against each other. So right now I'm going to quickly walk you through how we structured this and what it means, and showcase version 1.0 of our build tier list. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so first of all, this is not my tier list. This is a collaboration with a bunch of different content creators and clan mates and top players, and meeting with people that have 3 or 4 level 100s and getting a bunch of different perspectives, and then trying to go through and grade each build on different categories so we can see them on one page, kind of graded against each other in depth. Because sometimes when you just see like a S, A, B, C, F or whatever, you don't get the nuance of things like, oh, you know, this druid build is awesome end game, but it's super trash early game, so might not be the best season starter. Is there one that has a better blend of early game and mid game and end game that I might want to do as my first build? And some of these different nuanced perspectives can be hard if you don't really break things down into different categories. And like I said, this is going to be version 1.0, so it's going to get more accurate, it's going to get more fancy, and we're going to continue to evolve this and make it better. This is just the first iteration of it as I continue to gather more information and more perspectives and add more categories and add the ability to sort, and all of that stuff will be coming very soon with time, and this will probably look a lot different even by the time Season 1 comes out. But the way this works right now, overall, as the build tier list, is it's going to be broken down by the build name and the class, and then the different categories are going to be early game, mid game, end game, nightmare dungeons, and ease of play, and then it will crunch those into an overall grade and then sort all of the builds by overall grade. So what we're going to do is continue to monitor what are the popular builds in game and what are people most curious about, and then we will add them to the list and get them graded and continue to get more and more opinions and change these grades as the game evolves with things like balance patches and as we learn more about how the game functions. And we're going to need a little bit of time as a team to get this fully filled out and done, but eventually what you're going to be able to do is click on each one of these and it will pull up the actual build and a more full deep dive description of it and how to play it. Like right now, if you go down to Ice Shards and you click on the Ice Shards build for Sorcerer, it's going to pull up a dedicated post about Ice Shards where you can read about it and see about the gear, and then also get a video down here at the end where it shows the most recent video we have about that build and a full breakdown of how to play it and what goes into it. So some of them aren't going to have that yet, but we will get that filled out eventually and get different perspectives. Like we'll have DM talking about the druid, or we'll have a veiled shot talking about the rogue, and we'll get these different builds filled out from the different creators and the people that we have within our team. And we'll also continue to evolve these categories. These are fluid. We can change these. Like if Diablo 4 is out for a year and no one cares about the early game anymore, like Diablo 3, you don't really care about the early game because you're level 70 in 45 minutes. So these different categories are going to evolve, and we'll add more, and we'll add the ability to sort through them. Like if you just want to sort by early game, you'll be able to click and sort the best builds for early game and then be able to click on them and get a breakdown of all of that if you're looking for things like a season starter. But okay, anyway, with all that out of the way, just because this is the first video I've done about our tier list, I wanted to break it down and explain it for a little bit. And as far as those categories are concerned, I will break them down a little bit for you on what they mean and how things are graded a little bit. So first of all, the grading scale is from 0 to 100. So something that is low, like 20 something, is going to be pretty bad. And then something in the 90s is going to be awesome and one of the better ones in the game. So the way that the categories work is early game is going to be like that campaign leveling process, like the 1 to 50 or so area in the game. Mid game is going to be like that 50 to 80 spot in the game, and then the end game is going to be when you're really pushing up for level 100, like level 80 to level 100. Nightmare dungeons is going to be a little bit of a mix between how good they are at speed farming dungeons and also pushing dungeons. Ideally, we should probably have 2 different categories: speed farming nightmares and pushing nightmares. So that will be something we probably address at some point, but right now it's a little bit of a blend of the two and just kind of crunched into one grade. And and then how easy it is to play. So something that is like necromancer summons is probably going to grade out very easy to play. You see, yeah, necro summons get an 88 for score on ease of play. Then there's some builds that are a little bit more difficult to play, where you have to position properly or really do things in a certain order, and they have a little bit more action involved with them, and then they'll have a lower score in terms of how easy they are. Now, we also may add things like solo DPS, AoE, DPS, and get more categories on here to try and break things down as accurately as we can. So that's kind of how it works in terms of how it functions. Now, in terms of the builds, we actually see Bone Spear grades out as the best overall build when we plug it in, and it just kind of spits out the average score. Bone Spear is hitting ridiculously hard. It's pretty easy to play. It's functioning decently consistent over the course of the game, and it really scales well in the end game once you get it fully built out. So yeah, Bone Spear grading out super insane. We have some Rogue right here. Thorns, because it's so good, like early game, mid game, end game, and super easy to play, ends up actually grading out pretty well. You've got a lot of Druid and Rogue and Barbarian up here on these top builds, along with the Bone Spear Necro. And then down here, you get a little bit more of the sorcerer type builds and the archery type builds for the Rogue, like penetrating shot. And then some of the builds, we do need to have this set up in a way where it probably weights things a little bit differently. Like, it's probably more important to give extra weight to like being good in the end game and being good at nightmare dungeons compared to early game, because you're going to spend more time over there. But I guess the other perspective would be that most people are casual players, are going to spend most of their time in the early and mid game, and especially leading into seasons, you want to know what builds are going to help you get a jump start in the season and do well very early. So there is still a lot of value in the early game. So I think mostly for right now, the weight thing isn't a super important thing, but eventually we are going to want to get these categories weighted accordingly and then display that here on the screen. And also, I do have to mention that there's obviously going to be disagreement. Whenever you do a tier list like this, everyone out there is going to have different opinions, and you're not going to agree with every number you see on here, and I actually love that. I want to hear down below, where do you agree? Where do you disagree? What build should or shouldn't be on here? Because we can take all of that feedback and we can make things better by seeing where we're getting a lot of pushback or where people really agree, and then we know that we're probably accurate. So that's going to help us make things as accurate as possible by season 1, so that people will have a comprehensive tier list of where to go to get as much information and perspective as possible when we're picking our season starter and what build we want to dive into season 1 with and all that good stuff. So yeah, I will link to it down below for you to pull up on your end and let me know where you disagree and all that, because we'll probably have this thing pulled up like every day or two and constantly changing these grades and getting things updated as we learn more and more about the game. Diablo 4 is such a new game that all of us are learning a ton every passing week. We're learning how these different builds compare to each other. We're discovering different things in the meta, different ways to play, different builds that are viable, and then we will add them and grade them accordingly. So boom, there we have it. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. It would mean a lot to earn your subscription down below if you enjoy daily Diablo 4 content, and I will see you soon in the next video. Thanks. Peace.